Before choosing eave protection material, roof slope, roof design and style, potential for ice and snow accumulation, and climatic conditions must be considered. For slopes over 412 but less than 812, the National Building Code requires eave protection up to a minimum of 24 inches inside the warm wall. Above code does not require eave protection on slopes greater than 812. However, most manufacturers and best practices recommend it, especially in regions prone to ice damming. It might be necessary to exceed the minimum requirements to achieve a long-lasting roof. So by raising a hand, anybody is a roofing contractor in the audience right now? Got a couples? Where will we install the leak barrier on the roof? Anybody can shout at me the answer? Eaves and valley, very good, sir. Those are mandatory by code. We will also recommend the use on IPS, penetration, flashing, around chimney, skylight, roof-to-wall junction, and a roof pitch transition. In some cases, those might be requirements for enhanced warranties. It can also be added at any critical area prone to leakage. Today on our demonstration deck, we will see the leak barrier being applied on the eave and in the valley as well. As you can see on the top of the leak barrier, there is a 4 inches salvage edge designed to adhere the next row to the previous one. National Building Code requires leak barrier to be installed 24 inches inside the warm wall of the building to prevent water infiltration in case of ice damming. So underlayment. The underlayment is recommended by CRCA, CASMA, and the shingle manufacturers in most cases. This component should simply become part of a good industry practice. As with all other roof components, underlayment must meet minimum requirements of the manufacturers, the National Building Code, as well as all other local building codes. The role of the underlayment is to provide the roof with a secondary layer of protection, flatten out the deck, and prevent wood resin from affecting the shingles. We have applied a generic synthetic underlayment on our demonstration deck, which is the most popular product used in our territory. However, there is a variety of other types of synthetic membranes and felts which can be applied. Minimum code requirement for underlayment is still your standard number 15 and number 30-pound felt. Oh, the cab nails, they're just behind. They're where John is. Oh, somebody took them. Oh, right there, right there. Staples or nails are typically used to attach number 15-pound felt underlayment or any type of paper. However, on the synthetic underlayment, there is a requirement to use cap nails or cap staples. One of the reasons why is that you want to enhance the pull value of the product to make sure it doesn't blow off in case of windstorm. Another reason is that this product can be left exposed to the element for a certain period of time. With the use of cap nails, you will reduce or prevent the likelihood of having a leak inside the building. As they finish with the underlayment, I'll touch base a little bit on the metal flashings. Metal flashing systems are used in a variety of locations on the roof. Most commonly, they are found around the edge of the roof in the form of a drip edge and rake edge metal flashing, as we can see installed on our deck. You will notice that a drip edge on the eave of the roof is installed underneath the leak barrier, but the rake edge on the rake of the roof is installed on top of it to prevent wind-driven rain to enter our system. In many types of valley constructions, a valley metal flashing is required as well. Finally, we will also find metal flashing around protrusion, such as skylights and chimneys, as well as in the junction between the roof and the wall. You want to put your starter on before? You want to put your starter on before the metal? So, just before we install the metal flashing in the valley, we will install the base starter strip. The National Building Code specifies that before installing the first row of exposed shingles, a starter strip consisting of a row of strip shingles with the tabs cut off and the ceiling strip installed at the eave is accepted for a 3-tab shingle installation. In laminate shingle system, the use of a pre-manufactured starting strip is required by most manufacturers. Using this method allows for the first layer of shingle to be fully bounded to the starter strip and may prevent curling, blow-off, and water infiltration. The starter strip are installed at the eave of the roof as well as on the rake. We typically use 4 nails per piece to attach them, and the nails are located within 1 inch above the glue line. Yes, sir. Sorry, I cannot hear you. Yep. Okay. So the question was to brief a little bit on what type of product is being used compared to the other options, right? Okay. In this case, the leak barrier is a water-resistant bitumen membrane self-adhered to the deck, which means that when you fasten to this membrane, it seals around the penetration. The underlayment, the synthetic underlayment, is not water-resistant. It is only water-shedding. When we fasten to it, it creates an opening. If the water is shedding on it, it won't create any problems. However, if the water is pounding or standing on it, it will at some point get inside the system. That's the difference between those two types of product. In terms of underlayment, between this and the black paper, the number 15 pound felt, this is much better tear resistant. If you try to tear the number 15 pound felt, it will be very easy. It has also a much bigger resistance to water. If we receive water or moisture in the black paper, it tends typically to start to curl and create fish mouth. We will not get that with the synthetic. However, it is to note that those two products are actually a vapor barrier and requires a tremendous amount of ventilation to make sure we do not get condensation inside the deck. Will that answer your question? Awesome. So starter strips are installed. We're at the valley now. On our deck, we have chosen to show an open valley protected with a self-sealing membrane, which is one of the most popular and recommended valley construction. Please note that there is several other types of valley construction that are acceptable. As you can see on our deck, we are installing the middle flashing fit with the bottom edge of the starter strip. You have your chalk line? But I mean, you're going to do it?
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
We do it this way.
All right, right there, yep. As you can see demonstrated right now, we will snap chalk lines with a specific spacing to allow large volume of water to channel in the middle of the valley. We will use a 4 inches total spacing on the top of the valley and space it out 1 inch every 8 feet of valley. So if we start 4 inches on top and we have an 8-foot long valley, we'll be 5 inches at the bottom, 6 inches on a 16-foot long valley, and so far. That's a total spacing between the two lines, which means when I say 4 inches on top, we're 2 inches on each side. Right behind these chalk lines, we can also observe the use of a line of roofing cement. For safety reasons, we will not apply the roofing cement on it today because it can have vapor that we're indoor right now. But typically, we will use a line of roofing cement 1 inch behind the chalk line to prevent water from sliding underneath the starter strip. The use of a starter strip inside the valley ensures the shingles will be glued in the portion close to the center line, where nails are prohibited for obvious reasons. Please stay attentive as to how the shingles are specifically trimmed inside the valley when we will install them. It is imperative to crop the corners to avoid water running inside the system. Ready for a shingle? Would you like to see some shingles go on? So.
Sometimes a practice to seal the metal valley to the ice and water with ice and water shield?
Absolutely. So Sean is asking a very good question. The question is it a practice to seal the metal flashing to the leak barrier using another piece of leak barrier? We will call that the sandwich technique, when you put a piece of leak barrier underneath and 2 pieces on each side to make sure that water cannot back underneath the metal flashing. It is indeed a recommended best practice, but it is not mandatory by code and manufacturer at this point. Shingle must meet specific CSA standards. It's called CSA, take all notes, right? CSA 8123.5-M1998. Everybody got that? Awesome. For fiberglass shingle, a shingle which meets these standards shall resist the harshness of Canadian climate. Warranty, roof slope, budget, and color selection are other factors to consider when choosing an asphalt shingle. We will be installing a laminated fiberglass shingle on our demonstration deck. For a better aesthetic benefit, some manufacturers recommend these type of shingle to be installed on a 412 slope or greater. For water shedding reasons, they shall never be applied on a slope lower than 212. Between a slope of 212 and 412, it is required to take low slope precautions by doubling the underlayment or covering the whole deck with leak barrier. It is important for shingles to be applied following the manufacturer's application instructions, which can be found printed inside the wrappers on the manufacturer's website and the installation guides. We will not explain the whole process in this demonstration, but please allow me to address certain elements which could make an enormous difference on the overall performance of the roof.
Someone has a question, you can just hand this to them.
Oh, perfect. Thank you very much. We have a question mic now. Please note that in most cases, the application instruction printed inside the wrapper will be printed in many languages. English, French, Spanish, and dummy pictures. Make sure that everybody is covered. I love pictures. Cutting. Every shingle have a cutting pattern which ensure that the joints from one row to another are properly offset and provide the best appearance on the final roof. The use of chalk line for other aligning technique might be needed to provide proper horizontal alignment on the roof. Nailing. Every shingle have their own nailing pattern as well with a specified location and amount of nail required. On a 3-tab shingle, nails should be located between the self-sealing strip and above the cutout part of the tab. Laminated shingles shall be nailed in the designated nailing zone, ensuring that both layers of shingles are penetrated by the roofing nails. Failure to nail properly within generally 4 to 6 nails per shingle will make the shingles vulnerable to wind blow-off and might void the manufacturer's warranty. For high wind resistance, what will you guess is high wind in terms of roofing? In terms of kilometers per hour. What will you guess is high wind? Take a pick.
110 miles per hour?
110 miles per hour. That is exactly the number that we consider wind resistance. So 177 kilometers per hour, which means that you walk out, your air is a little out, your ad go off. That's not high wind for roofing. But in case you have high wind, it will be required to use 6 nails per shingle, use a starter strip on eave and rake edge, and some manufacturer will also recommend hand sealing in this case. Hand sealing means that we're going to take the caulking gun and we're going to add 4 dabs of roofing cement underneath every shingle. I've never met an installer yet that is very thrilled by this practice. Cold weather application. When installing in cold weather, roofing manufacturers strongly recommend hand sealing the tabs of the shingle as well, from October 1st to March 31st, or if you live where I live in the north of Quebec, from July to June. The shingles may not receive enough surface heat to activate the self-sealing strips. By the time that the warm weather returns in the spring or in the summer, the shingles may not seal due to the contamination of the self-sealing strip from dust and debris. You had a question, sir?
You say the sealing of, he didn't get that last one. You said the seal, you sealed the bottom with what?
With a caulking gun, with roofing cement.
Just underneath.
Okay. Sure.
Why the base shingle is not overlapped? They just installed it.
Oh.
They're just butting against each other. So that's a big point.
On the base shingle. Okay. So the question is, why are the base shingle butt together versus overlapped, right? We've installed a starter strip underneath the first row of shingle exactly to cover this joint. That's the reason of the starter strip. If you do overlap shingles, you will create a wind probability of having a blow-off, basically. You're creating an entrance point. Very good question. Thank you very much. On mansard's roof, the roof that are practically vertical, roofing manufacturers require the use of 6 nails per shingle instead of the standard 4. Due to the lack of compression on the adhesive, usually provided by the weight of the shingle over the previous one, it is recommended to hand seal the tabs as well. Will you have any other question at this point? Yes, sir.
If you hand seal the lower part of the shingle and you have to do wind damage restoration, it's a real hassle to try and get the shingle off, the full tab of the shingle off, because you've glued it down.
Absolutely.
And I've done a lot of wind damage repairs, and it's a pain. So it doesn't get done very often.
It doesn't get done very often, right?
Right.
So when you hand seal those shingle, the glue that you add will make them stick very, very well, which, as mentioned, the repair will become harder. Anybody that is doing repair on shingles sometimes that are already sealed? By raising hands, we've got a couple repair person in here. Is it easy to open that self-sealing adhesive when it's 20, 30 degrees out there? It is not. So when do you do it? In the winter time, early in the morning? Would you like to have a can of early morning in your truck? That'd be cool. You know those cans of compressed air you use to clean keyboards? Take that, flip it upside down, test it on the leg of your buddy. It'll make a nice dance. It will be about 75 below zero. Use this, freeze the adhesive, take your hatchet and open the shingle up like it's winter. So now you have a can of winter of early morning in your truck. Not so bad? I know they dress me as a salesman, but I'm a roofer. How are we doing on time?
3:35. We still have lots of time. Half an hour.
So 25 minutes left. Thanks, Josh. Thank you. You're doing a good job. In the open valley technique, which is a technique being used right now, it is required to cut the shingles along the chalk lines that we've snapped in the valley. As you can see, Evan is now cropping the corner of the shingle to prevent water to infiltrate the system and to sip between the shingles. This is probably the most common mistakes in valley, failure to crop such corner. The nails are applied with no closer than 6 inches to the valley center line, but always behind the caulking line that we have installed. Everybody see the invisible caulking line that we installed? Yes, thank you. Very good comment from John. Do we need to hand apply the shingle, to hand nail the shingles? Can we use a nail gun? Oh yeah. Will that go much faster? Also, will that be more prone for mistake and misnailing? Yes. So use of a nail gun will speed up your operation, but will trigger a need for a stronger quality control, which is in a lot of cases not happening. let me tell you a little bit about other types of valley construction. Anybody have heard about the close-cut valley? Roofers, so a close-cut valley is when I will take a shingle from one side and make them keep going on the other side at least 12 inches past the center line. Then I will roof my other side and trim them in the middle of the valley. So we will not have any exposed metal. The valley will be completely covered with shingles. The pro of this valley, it is very watertight because there's no exposed place. There's no risk for water running under any types of shingle. The downside of it is you have a tremendous amount of water channeling in one spot on the shingle that will typically degrade them and degranulate them a little bit faster than the rest of the roof. But both are acceptable. Yes?
It's also a snow trap because the snow will stick to the granules quicker, more so than the metal.
Very good point. Brian is making the point that on a close-cut valley, we might have snow sticking inside of the valley because of the granular surface versus on the middle where the snow and the water just slope down very quickly. So we've reached ventilation. Attic ventilation is a vital component of a roof system and is required to ensure optimal performance of the asphalt shingle and all other roof components. The ventilation minimum requirements for residential buildings are set out in the National Building Code as well as local code in association and roofing manufacturers. The use of a system approach, intake and exhaust, is best suited to meet the application requirements of the ventilation process. For a slope greater than 412, openings in the roof decks as well as the soffit need to add up to 1 per 300 rule. Anybody is familiar with the 1 per 300 rule? All right, sir. What is the 1 per 300 rule?
Every 300 square feet, one vent.
Very good. 300 square feet, 1 square feet of ventilation. So if we have 300 square feet of attic space, we will need 1 square feet of net-free airflow of ventilation. That will need to be split evenly between intake and exhaust. A lot of roofers are typically only looking at the exhaust piece, but a great company out there will also assess the intake in terms of capacity and in terms of airflow. For a slope less than 412, as well as cathedral ceilings and roof deck covered by a vapor barrier, the requirements increase to 1 per 150. In any cases, it is crucial to balance the amount of intake with the amount of exhaust. Yes, sir.
Generally speaking, if it's 5 degrees and windy outside, if your ventilation is proper, it should be 5 degrees and windy inside your attic.
Absolutely. So we have a ventilation class that I actually give, which is 3 hours, and we're going to go very, very deep in that realm. But this is a very good point. The goal of ventilation is that your attic is an unconditioned area on your house. It's not heated, so it should be the same temperature as outside. If you have a warmer temperature inside of your attic, for example, in the summertime, it's 30 degrees out there, and your attic started to crank up temperature, at the beginning it's normal. It's transferring heat to the shingle, to the roof deck, and to the attic. Then the ventilation system shall kick in and take it out with having a separation of temperature that is no more than 5 degrees between outside and your attic space. If you have a proper insulation on your house, and in the wintertime a roof covered in snow, the ventilation system will not do anything because there is no heat to expel. Therefore, as it is a static ventilation system, which means it requires heat inside the attic to start to kick in, the heat goes out, create a depression, and start to get air from the soffit or any opening it can find. As John and Evan finish the installation of the shingles, please allow me to talk a little bit about the plastic cement, the fasteners, and other small tools that we're using. Using the right product for the right application is key. In terms of fastener, most roofing companies use a 1 1/4 galvanized roofing nails. It is crucial that the nails penetrate completely the substrate. In some cases, using the 1 3/4 might be necessary. There is also options with different material such as stainless steel nails or shank nails for a special application. The last fastener to be used in roofing is screws. They are recommended to secure any bottom flange, exposed metal flashing to the deck. All exposed fastener will need to be sealed using roofing cement. These faulty cements are designed to be installed under a component such as in a valley and are great sealant but have very low resistance to UV rays. The thermoplastic or rubberized cement are a better option as they include UV resistance. In most cases, we will recommend sealing from within when possible, as it reduces the amount of maintenance created on the roof.
He could have put that underneath that shingle. He could have put it that one, but wouldn't fit. Nailed underneath it before he put the shingle
vent?
below it. Yeah, he could have put that flap underneath it.
Oh, underneath the previous shingle.
Yeah, before. Why-
Okay, so the question is, could we have put the bottom flange of the vent underneath the below shingle to hide it, right? Nail it there. So if we do that, we will create an entry point for water on the top part of the shingle. We can compromise that and seal everything with roofing cement, but we do not recommend using roofing cement as your waterproofing layer because it doesn't last as long as the roofing material. Despite the fact that it will work for a limited amount of time, you will have to do maintenance and come and reseal it every 5 or 10 years.
That's because the seal didn't reach. Like the seal would have been higher than that's why.
Well, you wouldn't be able to have another row of shingle on top of it that covers it because there's the vents.
Because
Yeah.
they would have cut the seal part off.
Yep.
Of the,
Yep. As part of it. Yep. So in this case, we have choose to use nails to secure the bottom flange of the vent, and despite the fact that
The show will be closing for the day in 15 minutes and will reopen tomorrow at 10 a.m.
15 minutes. Okay. So we've choose to use nails on this today. It is an acceptable method of attaching the bottom of a flange, but the recommended method is to use screws, roofing screws with a rubber seal that will ensure that those nails cannot back out, or the screws will not back out. Hip and ridge? All right. Evan is reaching the top of the roof, and thank God he's doing all the work and I don't have to do it. We're now ready for the hip and ridge product. The hip and ridge caps are the final component to a well-taught shingle system. In some cases, cutting a 3-tab product can be an acceptable solution. Most manufacturers recommend a dedicated hip and ridge product that will match the shingle warranty. The capping are to be installed facing predominant wind and fastened with 2 nails at the minimum. For enhanced wind resistance, using 4 nails, 2 on each side, is recommended. If the capping are installed over a ridge vent system, make sure to use the appropriate fastener as required by the manufacturer. So let's do a little trick here. If we're doing an installation facing predominant wind, where does the predominant wind come from in here? West, right? We install this. Yeah, the ceiling. Yeah. The ventilation system of this building. Absolutely. So they come in from west. We install the capping at the end of the day. Where does the sun set? In the west. So you always install your capping facing the sunset. That way you don't have to take out your compass and start to be looking where's west, where's north. As you can see, the nails are being installed about 1 inch from the bottom of the capping and just inside the glue line so that the next capping will seal above the glue line and prevent wind-driven rain to blow off where our nails are. We are now ready to take the remaining questions that you might have.